Hello and welcome. I'm Teva Smith, Director of Communications at the Alliance of Girls Schools, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's webinar. Understanding, managing, and fortifying the enrolment pipeline is a crucial part of running a successful school. So we hope today's session will provide valuable advice to boost your own enrolment processes. Speaking from my personal experience as part of the communications and community relations team at a large Australian girls' school, having up-to-date and meaningful information at my fingertips was really critical to how I communicated to individuals, whether that be enrolment parents, current parents, past students, donors, but also critical to how we used aggregated data to target messages and budget to the information needs of our community to really maximize our results. Today's session will be led by Greg Campitelli, Director and co-founder of Inquiry Tracker, the Alliance's newest partner. Having spent 37 years in the education sector, Greg is one of the most experienced marketing professionals in education. He was a teacher, year-level coordinator, and director of development. He's been on several boards for schools and not-profits, and is the publisher of a national education magazine. Greg will be joined by Sarah Worthington, Enrolment Officer at St Oran's College in Lower Hutt, New Zealand, Teresa Mierswa, Registrar at Loreto Mandeville Hall, Toorak in Melbourne, Australia, and Carmel Brewster, who is the Business Development Manager at Inquiry Tracker, but prior to that was the Director of Marketing and Admissions at a Catholic girls' school in Melbourne. If you have any questions throughout, just put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the page, and we will get to those throughout the session. So welcome everybody. And now I'm going to hand over to Greg.
Thank you so much, Tiva, for that lovely introduction. It's fantastic to be here today. And I welcome obviously my fellow presenters, Carmel, Teresa and Sarah. What we're going to do is start off by giving a light explanation of what Inquiry Tracker is, just so that gives the context of today's conversation, because all three ladies who are joining me today are all quite experienced users of the system, and it's through technology that they've been able to improve customer service and engage with future families, which is really the context of today. So what we'll do is we'll do a little light presentation on that, and then I'll let each of the ladies introduce what they did or are doing at their schools. So Carmel, what I'm going to do now is share my screen. I might just let you give me an indicator that you can see the screen okay. Yep. Lovely. So obviously it's all about forging meaningful and strong partnerships. And I'm very proud of the Alliance's relationship with Inquiry Tracker and our relationship with the Alliance. And we are, I personally, my daughters went through all girls education. My sons went through all boys education. So it sort of touches the heart quite closely. For us, it's all about the family. And one of the key mantras at Inquiry Tracker, which was built for marketers, principals, business managers, and boards to make really important strategic decisions about where the ship is sailing, and at the same time delivering exemplary customer service at a system that is at the coalface used by the admissions office. So the admissions office are the users of Inquiry Tracker. The beneficiaries are themselves, the parents, of course, the families, and ultimately the school to make really important strategic decisions. But it puts the family at the center of the universe. And we really do call it a game changer for schools in our view. So right now, how big is Inquiry Tracker? Well, it's in 5 countries. Pretty proud that it's a fully developed Australian product from ground up. It's been built and designed by educationalists. So it's not some configured CRM system off some other product. It's in 230 countries, 230 schools rather, across 3 clear sectors. And with one focus, it's been designed and built by educationalists, which is really important to get a product that schools want. For me, regardless of your school, whether it's a school of 30 children or 3,000 children, and we have both using Inquiry Tracker, the lifeline of every school is future enrolments. So right now, if we're a K-12 school, we've got 13 years, those students will be gone soon, and they have to constantly be replaced. And now we are living in such a competitive environment where the consumer sees themselves as the customer rather than the grateful client. And as soon as they see themselves as a customer, whether they think it or say it, they are making a product purchase. So that's really, really important in building relationships with future families, because this whole mantra of build it and they will come, we are Loreto, we've been here forever, therefore people will come to our school, is evaporating. So we have to engage with those families and make sure the choice is valid. So right now, Carmel, we've got a list of all girls schools across Australia, New Zealand, and America who are currently using the system. And there'll be schools familiar to us in this list. Some will be unknown to us, but of course, Teresa from Loreto Mandeville Hall and Sarah from St. Rans in New Zealand are familiar to us. Carmel's former school was Ave Maria College in Victoria. So, talk to some of these schools as well. In terms of challenges, often we have, too many disparate systems that store inquiries, no online application for the enrolment process. Some of these might be familiar to you. Documents being sent in via email or left at reception, time consuming to enter data into spreadsheets, hard to reliably follow up and maintain long-term relationships with future families, difficult and time consuming to create reports, difficult to manage tour and open day attendance and metrics. I know Teresa had a big open day the other day. Inability to profile future years by demographic and geographic data, in catchment versus out of catchment, or in zone versus out of zone, lack of time to get things done. Some of these 10 things might resonate with you. If you only had all these things solved, I'd be able to engage with future families in a much better way, Greg. Well, Inquiry Tracker solves these 10 things, plus a lot of others. In terms of boosting enrolments, which is the focus of Tiva's presentation today, we believe at Inquiry Tracker, you want to create raving fans, that's families, not just parents, it's the kids as well, by influencing word of mouth. And a lot of schools say, the biggest driver to our school is word of mouth, and it comes with a shrug of the shoulders. Everything we do shapes and influences word of mouth. All systems of marketing affects that outcome, and you can manage and impact that outcome by providing impeccable customer service, which is really linked to time. If you can do great customer service, you're going to get great engaged families. If you can articulate your point of difference between you and your competitor, then that's great. But make sure, and Carmel's really big on this, you capture the parents' areas of interest and the student area of interest. Understand that your students influence choice. Now more than ever before, students have a loud voice in where they go. So talk to them. And how do you do that? Again, our panel will share some tricks with you. Take families on a journey. That journey could be 1 week. It could be 1 month. It could be 1 year. It could be 5 years. It could be 8 years. So it depends on what is our entry point to our school. Parents need to be taken on a journey. That's hard to do and manage. So use technology to manage it and know them. You say, what do you mean, Greg? I know that the year 7 cohort is starting in 2023. Don't treat them as a cohort because they're not, they're a family. How many of them are children of alumni? How many of them, if you're a faith school, how many of them are Muslim? How many of them are Catholic? What demographic data do you have them? What starting year are they starting? What starting age? Are they a returning family? Are they a first-time family? All this data should be available to you to then segment the communication, which should be 0.7 personalized. So this is about putting if we can personalize comms, whether it's a phone call, an email, a broadcast, using the person's name and their child's name, then it puts the family, not the cohort, at the center of the universe, which is our mantra. So by creating raving fans, by delivering an extraordinary experience, if we can have a fantastic experience, whether it's 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, that would be a great outcome, because guess what? We're going to influence and shape word of mouth in the community. We're going to develop those raving fans, and you use tech to do it. So Carmel, I'll just wrap up with a couple of quick slides here, and then we might start some questions to the team and let the panel introduce themselves. For us, here's a really important point. Teresa and Sarah, when we ran the data across all the schools using Inquiry Tracker, and you said, how did Mary Smith get on our database? 96% of all leads on your database come from someone filling out a form on your website. And the other 4% come from a walk-in, a phone call, and an email. So if you've not got this bit right, and this is an absolute no-brainer trick to take away here today, make sure you've got 4 clear menu items on your website that drives people to an open day or tour, registers an inquiry, offers a personal tour if you need to, and offers the download a prospectus with a view to filling out an application form. And we really believe Inquiry Tracker offers you that inquiry to enrolment solved. I love spreadsheets, and I know you do too, Carmel, but you'd agree it's not for managing future enrolments. And what I want to do is play a 1-minute movie to give the context of what Inquiry Tracker does, and then let's just start the panel discussion. So here we go. Hopefully this plays.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. So I think that that's a perfect opportunity, Carmel, to let the ladies introduce themselves. So Carmel, I might hand over to you to run section, please.
So my name's Carmel Brewster. I'm the Business Development Manager at Inquiry Tracker, and I was in an admissions and marketing role previous to that for 7 years. And I actually used Inquiry Tracker daily. It was an application that I opened up at my desktop first thing in the morning. I was actually using that more frequently than the student management system, which was synergetic because I was dealing with future families and engaging with them actively through the use of this program. So that was something that I had open on my desktop every day and was using quite extensively. I resonate closely with getting rid of spreadsheets. I was using spreadsheets. It was my way of keeping track of my tour attendees. I was cutting and pasting, dragging them across to an email and sending them a reminder. So Inquiry Tracker really simplified that function for me. It automated all of that, made it a lot easier, and it freed up my time because I wasn't actually entering the data any longer. Families were going to our website and providing that information for us. So that was my initial experience with Inquiry Tracker, which I started using at our school back in 2018, which is when it all started. So Sarah, what's your experience been like?
Hello, so I am Sarah Worthington. I'm the enrolments officer at St Lawrence College in Lower Hutt, New Zealand. We are an all-girls integrated school from years 7 through 13, and our maximum roll is just over 500 students. I am the only member of the enrolment team, and I also sit at the front reception. So my day is split between answering phone calls from existing families. At certain times of the year when our application process opens, I'm constantly asking questions about how families can go on waiting lists, how they get application packs sent to them. But I could equally be pulled down to the medical room or the staff room or wherever else our senior leadership need me to be. So like you come out, I open Inquiry Tracker in the morning and it's there until I leave in the evening. And that's just part of my day now. It's there all day.
Now, I want to note Sarah's not being paid to say that. So,
No.
Sarah, how many children are there at St Iran's? I might have missed that. What year level?
Yeah, we have a roll of 504 students. So that's 72 students at every year level. We cannot take more than that. That is a ministry cap. But we would have around 300 students on a waiting list for entry into year 7. So we are in the very privileged position of having far more students wanting to join us than we could possibly ever offer places to.
So Sarah, for you, the technology has helped you manage the situation rather than trying to grow enrolments, right?
Absolutely.
Because when you ask the principal for the extra resource of $70,000 a year, to help you because you're doing this all the time.
Yeah.
What did the principal say?
No. So we literally were running off spreadsheets and paper copies in folders behind my desk, and I was running out of space. So my Excel spreadsheets were 400 names long for a particular year level. I had a folder for the A families, the B families, the C families at every intake year right through now until 2033 is where our babies are being put on the waiting list for year 7 2033. So it's a great problem to have, but it was a logistical nightmare trying to keep on top of where these families were.
Carmel, back to you.
Yeah, and Teresa, you haven't been with us for 12 months yet, and you already have about 3,000 people in your database with Inquiry Tracker. So how has Inquiry Tracker helped your day?
So it's made a huge difference to me. So for those that don't know, I'm the registrar at Loreto Toorak. We have about just over 1,200 students from prep to year 12. And I have there are two people in the admissions team at the moment. And it's hard to admit, Greg, but I still do have my enrolment spreadsheet. And I'm hoping that very, very soon I will be able to file that away permanently.
You're in that transition phase.
Yes.
It's hard to let go sometimes, isn't it?
It is. So it is, absolutely.
I get it.
So I open Inquiry Tracker every morning. It's open all day till I go home. Equally, I use Synergetic also. I've just found the difference is amazing with the online applications and how smooth that whole process is, and how easy it is to manage. And it cuts down on so much paper. So we're no longer, receiving stuff via mail and at reception and printing, and we can store it all electronically, which is the way we would like to progress in the future. On Monday, we had a school tour. So we had just over 200 families of people join us for the tour. Yep. So that was our first ever tour with ET, and the first one we've had in a year. So it was a real shock to the system.
Yeah.
But it went so smoothly, and it was so easy to manage people and check people in and change their details as necessary. And also we received many applications just after that school tour, which have been uploaded, processed, and the families that are for the next couple of years have been contacted, and the next stage of the process is moving forward. So it's been a huge difference to what we would do in the past with which was managing spreadsheets and sending emails. So it was amazing.
So have you received any feedback from families around what that experience has been like and how that process has really been simplified?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of families have commented even yesterday. So we sent out a reminder email for the school tours. Then we sent out another email, which we had to ask them all to do different things for Monday's tour. And then we sent a thank you email. So I've had lots of feedback from parents saying, thank you so much. It was so, it was so lovely to hear from you and remind us that we were booked for the tour. And then the thank yous, I've had lots of emails today saying it's so nice to receive that and be aware that, we were there and they really liked it. And it was so quick. I guess replying so quickly is what most of them liked.
I think that's really important. And there is a question off the Q&A. I'll get you to answer that one, Carmel, in a moment about data transfer into your student management systems like Synergetic and School Pro and whatever system you use. Carmel will answer that in a moment. But I think it's about taking people on that journey. So if I registered, if I go to see the doctor, I expect to get a confirmation of my appointment and maybe I get a reminder. I probably don't expect to get a thank you for coming from the doctor and sorry we missed you if they don't roll up. But if I go to someone's website and I might just share, I'll just share a neutral site if I can for a moment. So I'll just go to this screen here again. If I'm on a school's website, regardless of what the school is, if you regard that your website is to capture your leads, the parent portal is for current families. So therefore, what is the website for? The website should ostensibly be for to capture and engage leads. So have you got a button called Make an Enrolment Inquiry? Do you have to be Catholic to go to Loretto? I could ring up Teresa and ask her that question, or I could click that button and fill out a form. And as soon as I do that, the parent's doing the typing, not Teresa. I could request a brochure from St. Iran's. In the old days, Sarah would have had to take a phone call, put a pack in a mail and send it out, or maybe create a PDF email and send it out. Now, the family fills out a form and hits submit and gets a lovely email back from Sarah instantly saying, thank you, here it is. Could they book a tour? Can they apply now? If you put these buttons on your website and then they resolve or render a form that stays in your ecosystem, that stays on the MacKillop Catholic College ecosystem or the St. Iran's ecosystem, you're not pushed to any other third-party vendor site, they fill out the form and they hit submit, then the data flows in and they get thanked. And you can then engage them in a more sophisticated manner. Carmel, back to that question, please, off the chat.
So in relation to, does the data from Inquiry Tracker get passed directly into your SMS, Synergetic or others, or is it a manual at that point? So just speaking to Synergetic initially, they don't have an API, so we do actually create an XML import file that will get imported to Synergetic under future students. With others, systems such as PC Schools or Kmart actually is XML as well. PC School, it is API integration so that we are able to transfer that information directly.
So in a word, yes, there's no retyping of the information, the transference of the information is at the user control. So Sarah and Teresa are deciding when and where those records are transferred and how many of them are transferred. So in terms of some of the great challenges, let's just wind back the clock. So Sarah, is it time your greatest challenge in paper-based? That was the issue?
It was. And it was also just not looking professional. I would have a family ring and say, I think my daughter's on the waiting list for 2023, but it could be 24 or 22. I can't remember. Her family name might be this, but then I got married, so it might be that. And just having to open the right spreadsheet. Is she on that one? No. Is she on the next one? And you can hear the panic in the caregiver's voice because you can't find their daughter's enrollment and they expect her to be potentially coming next year, but why can't I find her? So I don't have to do that anymore. It's just one place. I put in a name. It could be the caregiver's name. And it makes me look like I know everything about this student and her family without having to go through multiple different places to look.
And we might show some examples of some of these things that the ladies are talking about as well, as if the time permits. And of course, any school on the webinar today can book in a free presentation with us at any time. Teresa, what were your challenges, from the admissions, like pre-Inquiry Tracker? What are your three challenges in this space? Is it time? Is it technology? Is it customer service? What was it for you?
Look, mainly it was time. It was trying to manage enrolments effectively and efficiently, and that was always a big issue. So Inquiry Tracker has definitely helped with that. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, that was the biggest issue. Also, now we've got one place. So now I go to Inquiry Tracker, whereas prior to that we had, a bit of this and a bit of that, another system for this and another system for tours, and it was all over the place. So this one's much easier. And also in the event that I'm not here, it's much easier for someone else to step in and use just one system without knowing the 10 spreadsheets that they need to open.
Yeah, that's so true. I give that example all the time, and maybe, again, it might be a good point, Carmel, to just show that example. And you can talk us through a little bit, Carmel, if you wouldn't mind. But that classic case of when you get that scenario when, a family does log in, and let's say I just go to Inquiry Tracker for a moment, folks, and I've just logged into a screen called Inquiry Tracker for a fictitious school called Sorrento Grammar. And I can see right now that for my Year 7 2023 cohort, Teresa, I've got 95 inquiries, of which 46 have reached the applicant stage, of which 14 are enrolled. And I know there's my conversion ratios, which people love instantly. And and then Teresa's going to say, hey, Greg, how did we track last year? Oh, well, Teresa, last year was 336.18. Okay. So now we can, how are we tracking for 2024, please? Or if you're Sarah Worthington, 2033. So, you can track any year levels or what have you at any stage of the journey. So the question that what was being asked just then was, the phone call rings and it's, I don't know, someone we'll make up a name here. I'll just have a quick look. I've got in my system right now, I've got 1,310 students. Okay. And I can say, I can simply search for any old name, and I could be the person at reception because Teresa's away. And I could say, it's the Finn family here. Okay. I type in Finn. And do I get in? Of course, I've got a Hudson Finn with a parent called Doug Finn, and I could say it's Doug Shepherd here. It's about my son or daughter Finn. Okay, and of course I may not have picked a female, but I can just change that to female here. And let's say Finn is female, and you've got year 5. She's currently at St. Roch's Glenaris, and she's looking to come at year 7 2020. Well, it could have been 2023. She gets a score of 75. What else do we know about her? She submitted an application. She happens to like drama and robotics, and she also likes the IB program. Now, I'm a person who's never met this family. I could be a relieving receptionist. Heaven help Sarah, she had a day off and said, man the desk, please, relieving receptionist. And what do I do if the Hudson family rings up? Well, you answer the phone and you put the detail, you talk to them. And you notice I don't have Finn's date of birth. Well, let's just grab that because that's a useful thing to grab, because we like to send out birthday cards to engage with future families, which is a lovely thing to do. Yeah. And what about, Carmel, how could we use some of this data down here to our best advantage here?
So this is where you can start doing some of those broadcast messages and engage with these future families based on their child's interests. So we're getting to know them a bit better, and we have a robotics seminar that we're going to be holding at our school. So we can actually send a broadcast message to all of the students that are interested in robotics and invite them to an afternoon at our school. So we're telling the family, we know what your daughter's interests are, and we're going to invite her along to this event at our school, so that they can actually meet other students who potentially will be attending our school and also interested in robotics.
And we can instantly, for example, we know that they've got a complex family relationship of Doug, Sandra and Janine. So it's a complex, they've got a lot of related siblings. They've got a very complex activity log of interactions that are being built up over time. Every time this family has filled out something or rung up the school, we're logging these activities. So we can know exactly what's going on in that family. And so again, about engaging with future families, Carmel's just given the example. I'll hit save here. How would we find, for example, I know I've got 1,300 kids in the system. This is Sarah Worthington's crazy spreadsheet for all of her different years, and she might have 5,000 or indeed Teresa might have 3,000 students if I logged into her school. But let's simplify the issue here. Let's look at 2023, for example. How many students I've got in 2020? 123. How many are looking for year 7? Okay, I've got 96. I wonder how many of these children are girls. We're a Catholic school, happen to be Catholic, are children of alumni, live in Melbourne and like robotics. I mean, that is a ridiculous segmentation, but of course you could do it. And that'd be nice to be able to do that. So if I just, for example, type in other interests, which happens to be how many of these kids like robotics, and this is Carmel's point here. So I know 18 of these children like robotics. They've told us when they came up for that tour that Teresa talked about before, they registered for the tour online. They got an instant thank you message from Teresa with a calendar invite. They nearly forgot to come, so they got a reminder. They rolled up for their tour and they did the check-in process, which Carmel will articulate in a moment around student ambassadors. They got a thank you for coming email the next day with a link in to apply or watch a video or conduct a survey. And for those who didn't come, got the sorry, missed you email. It doesn't matter if it was 20, 200 or 2,000 people, that what would have been the experience. While they were on the tour, we may have used students to capture some extra information about the family. And we found out the child liked robotics come.
Yeah.
So how could we then, we could then invite these kids into a robotics tournament or something like that.
So do you ladies use student ambassadors at all for managing your events, Teresa, Sarah?
Oh, no, we don't. Not yet. We may look at doing
Sarah,
that, certainly.
Yeah, we will be, certainly
I
from
started a
this
student
year.
ambassador program at our school, and I was training up Year 9 girls who had to actually apply for that leadership position. And they were used as greeters when people came to our school gates and actually perform the check-in process, which was quite simple. All they needed to find out is what the family's surname was, and they checked in the student and the parent and anyone else who actually was attending that event that may not have registered. And it actually assisted with some data acquisition where we were able to find out a little bit more about that student. So what were their interests? And like Greg was doing before, capturing the date of birth, also recognising if mum was an alumni of the school. So we can capture that information, actually do some of that verification and find out a little bit more about the family so that assists us with engaging with them as they move along that funnel.
Sorry, Sarah, you were going to say something about...
So what that basically is doing is building up your analytics. So do they have a sibling? Is the mum an alumni of the school? What is their religion? So I suppose one of the things that I really loved, and Greg showed us a little bit before, that dashboard. So how many inquiries do we actually need to convert to get to the application stage and then move through to the enrolment numbers that we're trying to get through? So what are some of the expectations of your leadership team as far as the reports that they're wanting and the information and data that they're wanting to see from yourself, Sarah?
To be honest, they are not particularly interested. It's more an internal thing. So the principal and I are really the only ones that need to see that data. And she is very interested in seeing the number of daughters of what we would call old girls, and also siblings coming through. And we are now having almost a third of our applicants as existing families. So that limits, of course, the others we can take.
And Teresa, is your board, your principal, your business manager interested in that kind of demographic data, school of origin, geographic data, where people live? Is that important to your school?
Absolutely. And now that they know we are able to provide it, they're going to want it all the time. Yeah.
And that's a really good, that's a good example again. And again, perhaps I'll just share the screen again, Carmel, so to let the folks know what we're talking about might be useful. And again, this is not designed to be a product demonstration at all, but about how technology can work. So if you've got the tech, and people, if they fill out a form on your website and you give them the option of putting in their address, most people will put in the correct address. If you ask them what their gender is, or what their faith is, or what their interests are, or is mum an alumni of our school? If you ask these questions, and you can make the fields mandatory if you wish, or optional, you're going to get great data. Or if you don't want to ask those questions in, ask them when you're chatting to them in the comms. So if we're looking at the analytics, what the ladies were just speaking about, so if we're looking at demographic data, for example, Carmel, so if I just bring up, let's say year 7, 2023, and I happen to be a co-ed school, not a girls' school, I'm going to get interesting gender splits. And by the way, we're increasingly confronted, even in all girls' schools, with non-declared gender, with people not wanting to declare their gender or wanting to be known as non-binary. So whilst you might say, oh, that doesn't apply to us, actually it will in the coming years. I think we'll increasingly see this issue become, not an issue, because that sounds like it's a problem. It's not a problem, a point of discussion. But what the ladies just referred to is, I wonder how many children are children of alumni? Well, guess what? 36 of them are, because I've got the data right in front of me. So as Teresa just said, if the principal wants a report, you could also always give the principal a login to Inquiry Tracker.
That was one of the questions, actually, Greg. Do you provide access to Inquiry Tracker to the principal or business manager so that they can generate their own reports, or do you generate it on their request?
Well, it's about, for us, and I'll let the ladies answer this. You at Inquiry Tracker, we give you as many user logins as you want. Yeah, there's no sting in the tail. Not charged for extra users, not charged for extra training. All of that comes as part of the system. But do you, Teresa or Sarah, do either of you give your business manager or principal a login?
No, we don't. Well, we don't as yet. She's quite happy. The principal's quite happy just to be able to call and get the report from me at the moment, but she may in future.
Yeah, we're the same. We don't currently have a login for our principal, but when we close our admissions process at the end of this month, then she will be popping in to look at applications and various other bits and pieces then. So,
and often a question that the principal will ask the people in the webinar today is, Carmel, the old chestnut, how many inquiries have we had this year? Hey guys, how we going? And so, well, I've had 59 inquiries this year, and I had a whole bunch in January and a few more in Feb. And the next question. The next question is, how's that compared to last year?
Yeah.
And of course, you can say, well, that's how it compares to last year. And by the way, you can have a login and look yourself. Now, of course, we wouldn't be so bold. Teresa touched on a really important point, and Sarah, I'm interested to know if geography is an important issue for you about understanding where people live and where you're drawing children from. Is that relevant to you, Sarah? I know it's relevant to Teresa.
Sure, we do have a zone, and we find by default that most of our applicants are within that zone. But within that, we then can see which primary schools are the parishes even that are referring their students to us or are coming to us because of their location near the church or mosque or temple or shrine, wherever that might be. So,
and again, and of course, this is all just fictitious data, but if my school was the red dot, I could lay in trend analysis here by putting in several years if I'd like to have data. And I can see I'm starting to get a pattern here. And we use the Google API, and which is pretty accurate. They update it every month. And of course, this is global. So if we're getting students from across the ditch or from New Zealand to Australia, Australia to New Zealand, or Malaysia or Singapore, for an international student, we're drawing children from around the world. This will map it exactly based on Google's API. So these, if we zoom in on these, Susanna Litchfield, who lives at 220 Newtown Road, Newtown, has a child coming into one of these years for 2020 for year 7. And I can quickly find that out. So again, Sarah, you just touched on, I think, school of origin. Can you just explain that a little bit further to us about how that's important to you?
Because we are an integrated school, we find that we take students from Catholic primary schools, we take them from private primary schools, and then of course state primary schools. So we know year on year which ones are more likely to have more students come to us, but actually being able to track that and say, oh, okay, this year St. Joseph's have a new priest and he's been really active, and we've had a number of students come to us from St. Joseph's or whatever other place that might be.
I think it takes the guesswork out of it. The two questions I often get asked, Teresa, is when I speak to a school and say, hey, where do your students come from? The typical response I get, oh, they come from everywhere. And everywhere is not an answer because people live in houses and flats. And what schools do they? Oh, our kids come from all over. Well, lots of primary schools, lots of early learning centers. Oh, they come from 200 different primary schools and early learning centers. Okay, but guess what? If we actually run the test over it, I reckon 80% of those children will come from probably less than 50 places. So we really need to understand which 50. And at Sorrento Grammar, I could just go in, hey, bring me up the enrolled kids for year 7, 2022. I know I've got 14 of them. What primary schools are they coming from?
Yeah. Well, Greg, can I just add to that? This was really important for me and assisted in community engagement, where I was able to sort of develop those relationships with our feeder schools knowing, you know, the numbers of girls that they had at those feeder schools, how many were actually applying to our school, but also the surrounding schools in that area that I may needed to forge stronger relationships with. So I use this quite extensively with that community engagement piece of the community. Yeah.
And I think what's really nice, and I'll ask you this question about the online application system, because I know, Teresa, you've been using it quite to your advantage. And right now you can log in, and if a family says, gee, we came to a beautiful tour at the school, we came last Monday, we've got this beautiful email from Teresa saying, hey, would you like to complete your application? They click the link, and maybe in old days they would get a downloadable PDF, or they might get a paper-based application sent to them, or they might get a form that they have to fill out again and hit submit. Why would you ask someone to fill out information that you just collected from them at an event? So the beauty of what we're offering is this idea of, hey, fill out the details, but we'll populate it for you. And then you just make the changes. That's a customer service experience, isn't it? Yeah. Teresa?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. There's nothing worse than, and it's happened to all of us, I'm sure, but nothing worse than logging into a site you've previously been on and having to go through and fill in every single field of the form. It's very frustrating. So this is great. It's a really good, it just streamlines it.
So what are the benefits for the families? So if we talk about the benefits, Sarah and Teresa, for us, the school, it gets better reporting, data capture tool, analytical tool, improved customer service tool. Put your family hat on, and how is it impacting them in their engagement with you? And then how is it influencing their word of mouth to their families and friends?
I would go back again and say it's just a professionalism thing. It makes us look like we're organised, makes us look like we know what we're doing. It's much quicker for the families. They're not having to come into our school office, which at the moment we have a lot of Omicron around and we are not allowed people in our school office. So it's a fantastic way. They just do it from home and it gets submitted. It's waiting for me the next day.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's it does make us look very professional, and it's ease of use is I guess the main thing for families, and it's quick and easy.
Yeah.
And I think it's empowering, isn't it, Carmel? It empowers them. Like, families are used now, they're online more than ever before, right? We're all shopping online. We're online better, that we're choosing, we're shopping, you know, we're quite confident of being, you know, online before. All of us are now doing webinars via Zoom. And 2 years ago, we probably were all rolling up to conferences in person. So it's become more efficient. So as the population has matured, let's use technology to our advantage to reflect those changing and shifting market trends. Carmel, any thoughts about when you were at Ave Maria?
I was just going to add, where the family tells us that there is siblings on that application form and we create a record, there's so many times I remember where, you know, we didn't have that sibling enrolled because they just forgot to fill out that application form or whatever. So where they've told us on the application form that there's a future sibling coming and we've got a record for them, we are able to actually pick that student up for, you know, Year 7 2025 and invite them to apply simply by them having provided us with a name and a starting year. So you don't forget and have those students sort of lost in the system. So I found that quite useful, because I feel like I know my school just didn't treat siblings very well, and they were forgotten.
One of the questions I just had off the webinar then was about applications. How does it actually work? So someone goes on and fills out the apply, they click the apply now button. So if I was here on this, I'd click the apply now button down here, and I'd be putting in my email address. I'd be sent a 6-digit code to make sure that I'm not pretending to be someone else. And I start filling out the application form that is configured exactly how you want it to run, and provide exactly which documents you require to be uploaded and which ones are compulsory and how many documents are required. Please upload your grade 6 report and your grade 3 report, or please upload your NAPLAN result, or please upload your proof of residency, or your passport, or your COVID immunisation certificate. Whatever is required, whatever terms and conditions the school want you to sign, and whatever signature and payment is required. So all of that is fully customizable. And then the information flows into Inquiry Tracker. One of the great things is people start an application and they forget, or they get distracted, or they have to get a birth certificate, which, oh, I've got to go and find that somewhere and I'll come back to it. So if I ask the audience, Carmel, I wonder how many people know, how many in their world have started an application for Year 7 2026, but not hit submit? And most of our people would say, well, I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? Well, at Inquiry Tracker, we do know. So I could go into my applications menu if I'm at Sorrento Grammar, and I could easily see, I wonder how many applications I have. I have 283. I wonder how many are in progress. Well, type up in progress and have a little look. I've got this many in progress. And if I, so I've just got some Zoom stuff down at the bottom there, Carmel, in the way. I've got 85 in progress applications. I could refine the starting year or the year level that I'm interested in. This is really interesting. We've got 85 people who started an application, haven't hit submit. And Inquiry Tracker will send those family an automated, fully customizable and personalized email. You haven't done it yet. And that will sit there forever until they complete. And the school could even preview where they got up to. So Teresa could ring up the Gleason family and say, look, I did notice you started an application late last year. You haven't hit submit. How can I help you? I did notice you got up to page 4. Would you like to do a screen share? Oh, thank you, Teresa. I thought I hit submit. No, you haven't. Let's complete your application. That's great customer service. And that family is going to be singing Teresa's praises. Oh my God, I was rushing. I thought I hit submit. I didn't. I got a lovely phone call from Teresa. I got a reminder email. I still forgot. And then Teresa rang me up and said, would you like some assistance? And again, what a great school. So I'm now telling all my friends, you got to send your kids to Loretto because they care and they remember. This is the thing. They care and they remember. So again, if we just put it in, looking for a submitted application, again, I could just click on any one of these people and, the Tanya Birch. And this is the experience. So the Teresa and Sarah referred to documents being uploadable. And again, this is not designed to be a product demonstration. It's again, just a taster. So we know that this person, Tanya Birch, had submitted an application. We know that the date it was submitted on, and by the way, that's archived and locked down forever. And the original application can't be edited. Only a version of it can be edited. So that's your audit trail. When you review your documents, you get green lights. So once you've reviewed all the documents that have been uploaded, they get a green light if they're correct. And if someone uploaded the residency eligibility certificate, but it actually was a Christmas card that they uploaded, then you might say, hey, that's not valid. So again, this is, again, just a bit of a taster of what to say here. Lady.
Sorry, just to cover off on a question.
Yes,
does Inquiry Tracker capture all requested documentation from parents electronically? And does it name it appropriately and pass it on to your student management system?
Yes.
So whilst we can't control the file name that the parents save that document in, when you download the documents, it will create a zip file with birth certificate, immunisation record, NAPLAN, and within each of those folders that are being named with the document that you require will be each of those documents that the family has uploaded in the file name that they have basically called it. So the actual document box for birth certificate will have the birth certificate uploaded in that section. And depending on the student management system with Synergetic, that can be uploaded to DocMan, for example.
Yeah, so wouldn't it be nice that instead of Sarah's inbox being full of very personalised certificates that are sitting in her inbox or left at reception, neither of which are safe, wouldn't it be nice to have them uploaded electronically, reviewed, downloaded, stored beautifully in files that are all fully labelled? So the effort of one click, bring me up all Year 7 2023, all 132 students, download the documents, please, into one zip directory with 132 subfolders inside it with all the certificates that I've already approved inside of them.
Yeah.
Again, ladies, any comments around that, just to value add to what Carmel said?
Only to add that we are very specific about what also cannot be included. So we do not need swimming certificates from 2 years ago that she won something at gymnastics. Our admissions committee do not want to see that. And now I no longer have to stand in front of a parent and say, I'm really sorry, your daughter's amazing, but I can't take this folder of certificates. It just means I can go into this online application. If there's a whole lot of stuff there that is surplus, I can just very quietly remove that. The family don't need to know that that's not been included as part of their enrolment process. They have been asked very specifically for what they can have, and that of course goes through to the admissions committee. But I'm not embarrassed.
Sarah, just on that question, I'll answer one of the other questions that one of the folks just asked. What happens when a family does walk into reception and say, well, there's my birth certificate. I don't have a computer or something. Can you do it for me? Of course, absolutely. The school can do it for them. So that's really important. In terms of the different compatibility with student management systems, Inquiry Tracker has one philosophy. Where do you want the data to go? And we will work with the student management system to get it there. And again, some of them are at the limitations of the student management system. So ultimately, we have a very, very collegiate and cooperative and partnership approach. There's dozens of these student management systems on the market. It's about trying to be best in class at what you do. And we want to be best in class at what we do, but we don't own the data. It's your data. All right. So, you want to be able to get the data to where you want it to go. I'm mindful of the time. I know we're sort of coming up sort of more towards the end. There might be a few more questions again, Carmel, and we might just also announce, I suppose some of the people are interested in the costs, Loretto, that's Teresa and Sarah. So we might go for a quick walk through what the costs are. And again, there'll be a follow-up to this and we'll contact people if they're interested. Mm-hmm. Any further thoughts, ladies, just to sort of start wrapping up? I know one of the questions are, where's the data held? Well, it's really important. It's held in Australia. All the data, because it's an enterprise web-based system, so that means you can log in from anywhere in the world, but the data is stored in the Google data center in Sydney, Australia. And that's where the data is held. We, like hundreds of thousands of companies around the world, rent space in the Google data center. So when people talk about data is stored in a cloud, no such thing. It's stored in great big buildings full of file servers that store the data strategically. And so the data, Google has 2 data centers in Australia, and we store it in the Sydney data center. Another quick question about boarding, Carmel, about can we manage boarding and day students and things like that?
Yep, so we have international students boarding and are able to manage all of those. And the more questions you ask on the forms, the greater accuracy of data, and you're going to capture that information. So where you make them mandatory, you're going to be able to capture that data, which will support your analytics and make your data a lot more meaningful.
Yeah, for example, I know Assumption College Kilmore is a regional school. They're a co-ed school. They used to be a boys' school, but they've gone co-ed. Apply now, book in for a requestus, book a tour, make an enrolment inquiry. On their form, I think it's on the book a tour form. Again, really importantly, you stay in the Assumption College ecosystem. It's about the Assumption brand and the Loretto brand and the Saran's brand and the Ave Maria brand, not Inquiry Tracker's brand. So the form loads and there's the form, but look at the questions that they're asking. Now, again, the school is controlling this dialogue, not Inquiry Tracker. But look, there's a question about, are you a day student? Will you be attending as a day student? Will you be attending as a boarding student? What's your faith? What's your date of birth? What current school do you attend? And so again, what year level are you coming in at? All these sorts of things. So again, these questions can be turned off and turned on at any time you like. Ladies, just to finish up, please, any closing remarks about engaging future families to boost your enrolments. What are your top tips to engage future families to boost enrolments?
Just do it. It really has been life-changing for me in my role at the school. Now,
right, so your top tip is to buy Inquiry Tracker, right? So I mean, I didn't necessarily mean that as a sort of salesy pitch like that, but in terms of like, okay, the nub of it is that's helped you the most. Teresa, you were going to add something there?
I was going to say, you know, the more I use Inquiry Tracker, it's going to give me the opportunity to drill down and actually engage with these families that I would not have had the opportunity to do so before. So I'm really looking forward to doing that in the future.
I think that's really important, Teresa, that this idea that I was doing this and I was doing this and I didn't have time for the higher order customer engagement. And if you suddenly release that time metaphorically off your desk to then let parents do the typing and us to do the higher order customer engagement, which I don't have time to send the year 7 cohort birthday cards. Well, now you do. And the effort is one email and it's fully personalized. So, hey, that's a nice thing to do. Now I have the time. I don't have time. Teresa didn't have the time to send 200 thank you emails to all the individual families that attended the tour last year. This year she does, but Inquiry Tracker does it for her in her voice with her email signature. That's professional. Add in a customer service question. And by the way, here's a free tip for all the schools still on the webinar, Carmel. What's the one survey question you should ask? This is called NPS score. It's an international benchmark that came out of Silicon Valley. On a scale of 0 to 10, would you recommend our school to a family or friend? Airlines ask you this all the time. One survey question. On a scale of 0 to 10, how did you find your experience at St. Laurent's today? Oh, 9, 10, 8. And there's a whole way of grading this NPS score that benchmarks it for you. So one of the KPIs that Loretto could establish or St. Laurent's could say, hey, our NPS score is 7.8. We're going to try to get it to 8.1 next year. Little tip, little handy trick for the audience today. Check out NPS score and you'll get a little bit more information about that. That is all about how to influence that word of mouth. Tiva, I reckon we might be out of time and I reckon you might be able to get that Shepherd's book out.
I'm going to talk really quickly. Thank you so much to our panelists, Greg, and thank you for participating today. Thank you, like I said, to our guests for taking the time out of your school day, for participating, to hear from the experiences of registrars and admissions professionals of other schools about their experiences, their highs, their lows, the way that technology can help. We have another webinar next week, which you won't want to miss, which is how schools can champion consent education. And this is a fireside style talk between activist Chanel Contos and journalist Madonna King, and will be well worth attending considering the spotlight that consent has in the media and in all of our schools at the moment. Please visit the events webpage on events site on our events page, at least on our website, to book your ticket. And finally, I will send all attendees an email just requesting a little bit of feedback from you. So I'd really appreciate a couple of minutes on that. And then I hope everyone is safe and dry, and our thoughts are with all of the people that are flood affected in Brisbane and northern New South Wales. And hopefully Sydney doesn't get quite the amount of rain that we've had up here. And on that note, thank you again and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.